We've stopped by the Fatshark offices once again, and we've caught up with Victor here, and we got to see some of the first gameplay that you're showing off from Krater. And I would like to dive straight into what's not the same with Krater as with every other dungeon crawler. And I think one of the things that's going to stick out to people is that you've done away with levels. And can you sort of tell us a little bit about why you wanted to do that?
Well, in Krater, we really wanted to focus on the team instead of focusing on the individual. So if we would have levels on our characters, every time a character died, which they can do in Krater, you would have to babysit the new character that you would take to replace him. So levels really didn't work for us. So we decided just to, okay, let's get rid of levels and let's focus on just enhancing and upgrading your team instead. So it's the team that you sort of invest in time. It's gathering resources and money for the team, so for the team to survive instead of just one single player or one single character rather.
And also interesting with that is the fact that you use these slots to fill them up and to spec them up, and not only the character stats but also their attacks.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit how that works and what that allows the player?
Well, yeah, each character will have a number of upgrade slots, and each slot you can fill with a stat increase. It could be anything from strength to stamina or any stat that's in the game you could specifically put into the character. And they will have a set number of upgrade slots. So after you upgrade him fully, he won't go any better than that. He's like, this is as good as he will get. But he also has a set number of enhancement slots for his abilities. So each character has 2 abilities, and each ability has a set number of upgrade slots for the ability. And you can choose any from our, we have a set of components that you put in there. You could, for instance, put in a buff that would buff his strength or buff his stamina or buff his intelligence, or you could put in more damage, you could put in healing, so you could turn your tank into a healing tank. You could put in stun, so you could change your DPS character to also stun when he hits his targets. So you can really, depending on how you decide to enhance your character, combined with how you decide to enhance his abilities, what that character can do really changes. So if you focus a lot of focus, it's going to be focus, but if you focus on putting in a lot of intelligence onto your healer, his heals will become really fast. But if you don't put a lot of focus as well, he won't heal that much, but he will be able to heal constantly. But then if you increase the amount, so you could sort of, okay, I'm going to go intelligence on the while I'm upgrading him, but I'm going to fill all his abilities with more healing power. So you can, it's going to be a really interesting thing to see what the players. This is something that we're sort of afraid of, but we're also really excited about to see what the players are going to do with it, because it's probably going to be unbalanced. I don't know why, but I think balance is something that game design today is really afraid of. But what I remember from games I used to play is the imbalance could be part of the fun, because you could really okay, this is the absolute best way to spec this character. And of course, we're going to balance it afterwards, and we're going to change stuff around. But I think that letting players unbalance the game for themselves can be really fun. I mean, it's like a Skyrim. If you want to go and just knife everybody in the back with a bowl over their head, you can do it, but it's your game, so you decide. I don't do that because I think it ruins the whole experience for me personally. But if I wanted to, I'd just do it. Yeah.
I think from what I saw of Krater, I think it's a game that really encourages you to sort of take those risks, because you don't really lose anything by doing it, and you don't have to make a character that's a jack of all trades. No. Instead, you shouldn't do that at all, because then you can't really max out the potential of that character.
Exactly. Yeah, I think, since you can have a roster of characters, you don't have to make the ultimate tank for anything you're going to meet. You can make a tank that's really good at killing this enemy, or you can make a healer that's really good in this encounter or this boss or something like that. You don't have to have him to work for the entire game. He's probably gonna die anyway. So you should really be thinking of the team instead of just okay, I love this healer, he's the only one I'm gonna use. So yeah.
So how do you tackle things like, can you replace your teammates mid-mission or mid-quest, or do you lock down that when you enter a dungeon?
You go to the bar to change, because of course your characters are hanging out in the bar when you're not using them. So you go to the bar to change your characters. So you choose 3 characters, or 3 of your soldiers, or what we call them. And then you leave the bar, and that's your team for now. So and then if you go to a dungeon and you die, or you fail, or one of them dies, or anything happens, you will have to return to the city to get new ones. So it's sort of you have to choose before you leave whatever city you're in, or the closest bar, or you'll have to return to the bar.
You mentioned something previously that I was interested in, that you'll have injuries in the game as well. Can you tell us a little bit how that works, and is it more a novelty, or does it have any gameplay effects?
Now it has gameplay effects, but this might change. I just want to say, but as we're trying to do it now, is that each time a character goes down in combat, as long as not the whole team goes down, he will get like a mark, and if you get 4 marks, you get an injury. An injury could be like a broken leg, make him walk slower. If he breaks his arm, he will have a percentage reduction from his strength, or if he gets like a punctured lung, he will have less stamina. And that's permanent until you go to a hospital and remove it. And then you need crafting materials to remove injuries. So, but some of the injuries will be permanent. So if you're really unlucky and you get an injury like a punctured lung and it's permanent, you can't get rid of that one. And when you get 4 injuries, if you get a 5th injury, that character dies. So you still have a chance. Okay, he has 2 injuries. I'll better go back to any place where there's a hospital and fix him up. Or you just keep on going, and then he can die. So you have a choice. It's not like he's gonna insta die first time he gets killed by a dog or something. I mean, so you have a choice. Okay, this guy is really in bad shape. I have to get to an hospital. But getting to a hospital might not always be that easy, because on the way there you could get ambushed or whatever. So.
And I thought we'd introduce these 2 fellows here. Who are they, and what are they?
Well, this is our. There will be. I don't know a really good word. There will be different versions of each class. So this is the highest mutated tank, and this is the highest mutated healer. So as you can see, he's really sort of gone crazy. I don't know what he's been taking, but some funky stuff in the Krater. The first tank you start with, he's not human, but he sort of looks kind of human, and he will have a set number of possible upgrade slots. But when you come to this level, he will have I'm not sure about the numbers yet. We're still working on it. But say if the first tank he has 5 upgrade slots, this guy he might have 15. So that's the difference.
And how do you sort of measure out when a player is ready for the more advanced versions of a tank or a healer?
That would depend on which area you're questing in right now, or moving around and killing enemies in. So you will find the higher sort of level characters or not level is the wrong word, but the higher rank of characters in the harder places to go. So there's a huge map that you're traveling on, and each sort of area has its own like area level, or whatever you would like to call it. And so if you're in an area where there's difficult enemies, you will find better loot and your possibility to finding a better tank.
So the progression is really in the map rather than in the character.
Yes, that's pretty sure. Yeah, it's rather in the map, or where you are in the story, sort of. And so we also see our characters more. It's like loot, sort of. So you could find a tank in the middle of a mission, and you sort of rescue him or something like that. So yeah.
And then you don't have to add him to your team immediately.
No, he will. Next time you go to the bar, he'll be there hanging out.
All right. So I understand that you recently you went to the States and talked to media about the game and so on and so forth, and that made you sort of dig a little bit deeper into the Swedish angle of the game. Could you expand a little on that and on what you're trying to do?
Yeah, we had an idea when we went to the States that we were going to set it in Sweden, but it was just like, it wasn't that fleshed out. And all of the journalists really like, oh, you have to go harder on Sweden. Sweden is just a weird country and stuff like that. So we okay. So now every name almost is Swedish. We have red houses, which is typically Swedish, and we have everything is going to be. We're really trying to push Sweden, and it becomes a really cool and fresh mix of post-apocalyptic with Swedish sort of countryside mixed in. I think it's a really unique look and feel.
No, I have to agree that you really have a different look for the game, which could easily, like a post-apocalyptic game, people would imagine that it's going to look like Fallout or something like that, but it certainly doesn't look at all like that, and it actually has a pretty lush, sort of almost gentle feeling to it.
Yeah. We wanted. It's a difficult sort of blend, because you still want it to feel dangerous. So we were struggling with not getting it. Sometimes it's just too happy, too lush, but we still want it to feel like when you leave a town, you're in. I mean, only like your kind of team would be able to move across this map, sort of, because it's so dangerous. It's just everywhere. People are looting and it's crazy. But we still want to. I mean, if the world would end, or sort of civilization would end, nature would take over. So I think it's kind of stupid that every time you have a post-apocalyptic setting, it's always dead, everything, and I don't think that would happen actually. Instead, nature would take over. So that's sort of what we started off.
All right, and what are you working on right now, and sort of where are you heading?
Oh, we're working very, very hard at trying to get our pre-alpha started, which is starting next week, I hope. But that's going to be with a limited amount of players, and then later on, when we feel sort of satisfied that everything is working, we're going to do a alpha. So pre-alpha, that will be just maybe 80% of all systems working in the first sort of iteration, and alpha we hope to have all the systems working, and then we're going to go do a beta, which I'm not really sure how it's going to be, but it's going to be public in some way, and then release later on this year.